Hey y'all, welcome back to the Hack Shack. In today's video I'll be showing how I revived a dead Breadbin C64. I've had this one for a little over 4 years now. It's just been kind of sitting around, so I figured it's about time to probably try to bring it back to life. This particular one belongs to a good friend and co-worker of mine, Mr. Cook. He is an OG Commodore super fan. He even has a Super Pet and the cool dual disk drive. 4,000, whatever it is. I don't have the number right now on top of my head, but he's legit. So I'll get this running and see if he wants to get it back. But he's got a Marantz amplifier of mine, so maybe he keeps the amp and I'll keep this Breadbin C64. We'll see. But with all that said, let's get right into it. So before starting on this in earnest, I'd already kind of messed around with this Commodore a little bit and noticed that it didn't seem to have power on when it was hooked to a good power supply. And the power switch felt real floppy and not right, so I went ahead and ordered a power switch from eBay and then got started once it came in. So we've got the C64 here with a good power supply, but no action when we turn the switch on, and the switch feels kind of loose. And there's something rattling around inside, but we'll get back to that in just a moment here. So we're going to loosen these last couple of screws, and you'll see what the rattling around I heard was. It's these broken standoffs. The plastic was kind of loose in there. This time around I'll spare you the grueling, full, detailed viewing of removing this shield. Bottom shield is off, and now we're going to focus on getting this switch out of here. So we're going to add some flux, add some fresh solder to kind of mix in with the old to make it a little easier, hopefully, to come out the solder sucker. You'll see soon how much time and effort we put into trying the braid and the sucker and everything else to get this stuff out of here. I'm gonna get this bracket off we should have gotten off. Here you can see I'm trying some braid, but it's just hard to get the heat in there. Such a big flat piece of copper there all together. Eventually tried to add some new solder, and then you'll see in a second here I just try to push the pins down. I just apply the heat and I'm actually pushing with the iron, and you see the switch, there it goes, it moves a little bit. Then I push the other one, and finally that sucker comes loose here. And the solder sucker was actually a little bit useful there to open those holes up. So now as we got the new switch back in, now we're going to add our solder to the pins, and we'll be ready to give this a go in a second. Cleaning it up, putting our keyboard back on, got it juiced up and ready to turn on. And no such luck. Look at this junk on the screen. Eventually I powered things back off and reseated some chips and got what I thought was the normal screen. I thought everything was back to normal. Things were kind of seeming that way. So then I'm trying the diagnostic cartridge I've got out here, and it seems to pass some tests. Sound was coming out. This actually, the little Adrian's Digital Basement music thing played. But then I tried Zaxxon from cartridge, and look what happens. You know, normally this is right when the spaceship's starting, but this is all just garbage on the screen. So I went back to the diagnostic cartridge, and this thing's got a bunch of dip switches, and technically you're changing versions of this thing. There was like one with a star and one with pluses, and I think these different revisions of the diagnostic software behave slightly differently with what kind of board you're on. And also you'll always get like some errors there if you don't have the harness, so I knew that. So I believe, like in the instances where you don't have the harness, like this, I think the CIA's U1 and U2 always look bad, and probably the 6581. So it was just kind of being inconsistent. But this one test kept saying PLA test bad, and this is the one revision I guess I kept hanging on, and I honed in on that PLA test for whatever reason. So based on that, I went ahead and ordered one of these GAL PLA replacements from eBay, and just kind of waited around for that to come in before I did anything else. And also, I also tried this cartridge with the dead test mode, and the dead test always tested completely fine, which is just really bizarre to me. And I'd also wondered later on if there was something up with the RAM. I'd read that sometimes RAM chips can fail, but they'll pass that test. So, and here when it finally came in, I'm adding a little fresh solder, heating up the existing PLA socket just to make sure that that's good. So I'm just adding a little solder and some heat there to kind of reflow that. Get that new one and stick it in and give it a try, and you'll hear how that goes shortly.
Really?
When that didn't seem to work, I read something about the character ROM and PLA interacting or something showing up as bad, so I put some Deoxit there, no dice. Hit up Twitter. This guy Dan and Commodore Lad gave me some ideas. So from that info, I went ahead and replaced this U27. That didn't work. And then I tried U25, and that also did not work. Then I tried U26. That also did not work. Then I tried to swap the CIAs around. Even used one out of my 128, no change. Then tried to swap out the kernel, basic, and character ROMs, no change. Swapped out the CPU, nope. Swapped out the SID, nope. I'd already tried the PLA, obviously, and that wasn't it. Then we swapped out the Vic and his little buddy there, Bud. And that didn't work either. I wasn't feeling well in general. I was actually getting sick during this, and I was getting super frustrated. Saw Jan made a video where he referenced this Pictorial 64 guide, and this U14 error, especially the fourth one from the left there, it caught my eye. It looked almost just like the error I had when I very first powered it on before pushing those chips around. So that referenced U14, so I swapped that sucker out. I expected to see this garbage screen I'd seen a million times before in testing, but finally, I was so excited to see this working. So now we're going to focus on this case and fixing these broken standoffs so we could get the board to stay in there as it's supposed to. So of course, checked out Thingiverse, and someone has already made these little standoffs replacements. So I printed some of those out and used a Dremel to basically get rid of the remaining broken ones and smooth that out. Used a razor blade, you'll see here, to kind of scrape some of the fine little pieces that were in a corner. I think I might have caught that last one there too, needed a little more dremeling, but prepared that. And you'll see me give it a wipe down with some alcohol, I think, just to make sure it's as clean as it can be for it to work with the glue. I also discovered my screws weren't working that great, so I did a little tuning up and tightened the belt on the 3D printer to make the circles a little more circular. Here's this glue I was going to use. I pre-screwed the standoffs to the board, applied the glue, and flipped it over. Applied pressure for a while, longer than I'm showing here, but it worked great. So what now? Well, I've got a cool Breadbin C64 that's back working exactly like it's supposed to, finally. But now I have the daunting task of fixing my poor 64C that I used and butchered up to try to make this thing run. So I had to get a bunch of sockets I need to get back in there and a couple of chips from the ones that I only had one of, but those are coming. I think I'm also going to invest in a desoldering iron, and I'm just going to be torn over whether to get that Hakko or something else cheaper, but I think I need to get the Hakko. I also would like to maybe do some more intelligent type troubleshooting instead of just throwing parts at stuff. I want to get out my logic analyzer, maybe even talk about getting a scope and do the right kind of reading and research so I'll know what I should be seeing where on what pins. So maybe I can make a more intelligent approach to looking at which chips may actually be bad instead of just shotgunning around on things. I think that would be possibly a much better use of time if I'm going to be doing more of these. Well, that about wraps this one up. Hope you enjoyed it, and we hope to see you again next time. Take care, and bye-bye.